My fellow Nigerians, as your future president, I present to you my 2025 State of the Nation address today, October 1, 2025, which is the 65th anniversary of our independence as a nation. Let me begin with insecurity and especially the growing number of highway kidnappings and the killings of Christians in the Middle Belt by Muslim extremists. Talking about insecurity, yes, states must step up and equip their own internal security outfits. But recently, the Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal, for example, said he knows the whereabouts of bandits, but he is helpless because security agents take orders from Abuja. And yes, the buck stops with Bola Tinubu. But he has failed Nigerians. Tinubu must reduce the frequency of his foreign trips, especially to France and the UK, and use a hands-on approach to oversee security operations. The federal government must keep Nigerians safe. The killings of Christians, in particular by Boko Haram and other Islamist extremists in the Middle Belt, must end. I'm glad the plight of Christians in the Middle Belt is finally getting global attention, thanks mainly to interventions by some Americans. Sean Nelson and the Alliance Defending Freedom have been quite helpful. Also, as recently as August 19, Charlie Kirk, the late great U.S. thought and faith leader, posted about the murder of thousands of Christians in Nigeria and the destruction of so many churches in the last 15 years. The numbers from monitoring NGOs are horrific. 7,000 killed in the first 220 days of 2025, about 35 killings a day. 189,000 killed since 2009, 125,000 of whom were Christians. Benue State is reported to be the hardest hit. 1,100 deaths, including the Yelwata massacre in June, where about 200 Christians were killed. Then on September 9, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz introduced a bill titled the Nigeria Religious Freedom Accountability Act of 2025 to hold accountable Nigerian government officials who enable Islamist violence and enforce harsh Sharia blasphemy laws. Also on September 26, U.S. liberal talk show host Bill Maher expressed shock at the lack of protests over the Nigerian Christian killings by Boko Haram. Maher said, and I quote, "This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza," end of quote. Likewise, on September 28, Rashid Hamami, also known as Brother Rashid, a Moroccan former Muslim and Christian convert and commentator, posted on X saying, and I quote, "Christians in Nigeria never carried out massacres, never fired rockets, never took hostages, never started a war, yet they are relentlessly attacked by Islamic groups. Churches burned, women and children slaughtered, men massacred simply for being Christians. What is the response of the world? Silence. No speeches at the United Nations, no condemnation of Nigeria for failing to protect its Christians," end of quote. Now, this is particularly ironic because when Tinubu's VP Kashim Shettima addressed the United Nations General Assembly last week, he spoke about the violence and aggression visited upon civilians in Gaza, which, by the way, must be rightly blamed on Hamas's cowardly guerrilla tactics to use civilians as human shields. But Shettima said nothing about the killings of Christians in Nigeria's Middle Belt. This whole situation is one more reason why I was and remain totally opposed to Tinubu's very insensitive Muslim ticket. By the way, why was Tinubu not at the United Nations General Assembly? He often goes to France and the UK for so-called working visits, yet he was missing in action when it was time to address the world on behalf of Nigeria. Tinubu and Shettima seem to have forgotten that charity begins at home. The federal government, working in partnership with the state governments, must stop the killings of Nigerian Christians and stop the armed robberies and kidnappings in different parts of the country. 3 days ago, an NBA member, Peace Onyesum, and her sister, Gift Onyesum, were abducted in Kogi State on their way from Abuja, with reports saying their abductors have asked for 40 million naira for their release. 2 days ago, 29-year-old Arise News anchor Somtochukwu Maduagu died after an armed robbery attack in Abuja. To make matters worse, Somi, as she was fondly called, didn't die on the spot. She was taken to the Maitama General Hospital after jumping from her home when the armed robbers came. But she wasn't treated for lack of identification. How sad. What's particularly painful about Somi's story is that she returned to Nigeria after working in the UK because she wanted to add value to our country. She dreamed of becoming a politician, which is great because of the very low levels of female participation in our politics. Rest in peace, Somi. I'm very sorry we failed you. Now, apart from the threat to life and property brought by insecurity, as an investment consultant, I know firsthand that Nigeria is losing significant investment opportunities because of insecurity. Just 2 weeks ago, my Chinese investment partner, whom I've convinced to visit Nigeria next week to assess investment opportunities across different sectors on behalf of over a dozen companies, had second thoughts about the trip after reading about some Chinese workers kidnapped in Edo State. While I've convinced him to not cancel the trip, he has sadly ruled out some mining and solar related investment opportunities in a few northern Nigeria states due to security concerns. Regarding ending our perennial power shortage problems, I maintain that the best option is to approach China with a proposal to lease our power sector under a public-private partnership PPP arrangement as part of the Belt and Road Initiative to a consortium of Chinese power companies for about 10 to 20 years. If we do that, in 1 to 2 years, we'll have 24-hour uninterrupted power supply. By the way, lest we forget, while campaigning in 2023, Bola Tinubu said Nigerians shouldn't vote for him again if he didn't give us constant electricity in 4 years. We will definitely remind him about that in 2027. Meanwhile, August gave us the infamous Kwam 1 and Kwam 2 incidents, which revealed significant weaknesses in our aviation management sector. In the Kwam 1 case, on August 5, singer Wasiu Ayinde Marshall blocked a plane on the tarmac from taking off after being denied boarding because he insisted on taking a flask on board. In the Kwam 2 incident on August 10, an Ibom Air passenger Comfort M. Manson was prevented from getting off the plane after landing, after being accused of not turning off her phone before takeoff, leading to a scuffle between her and Ibom Air staff that sadly resulted in her nudity being exposed while she was being dragged off to be handed over to airport security. As both incidents happened in quick succession, they clearly highlighted the double standards in how they were handled. While Kwam 1, who is friends with Bola Tinubu, was let go, Kwam 2 was quickly charged to court and held at the Kirikiri prison until the aviation minister Festus Keyamo intervened and ordered her release. Apparently embarrassed by the significant public attention over the glaring double standards in how both incidents were handled, Keyamo announced Kwam 1 as a federal government ambassador for proper airport security protocol and said the airline operators of Nigeria were looking at using Ms. Manson as an ambassador for good passenger conduct. Both measures, while seemingly well-intentioned alternative dispute resolution methods, unfortunately instead show our lack of adherence to laws and standards in Nigeria. If you need proper airport security protocol, just punish silly behavior like Kwam 1's. If you need good crew conduct that de-escalates such situations as in the Kwam 2 case, just punish unprofessional airline staff like the Ibom air hostess in that incident. That said, I must commend Minister Keyamo for facilitating the September 17 groundbreaking, mainly by Airpeace, of what will become West Africa's largest aircraft maintenance and repair facility. Speaking at the event, Airpeace CEO Alain Onyema emphasized that the facility is of strategic importance to Nigeria as it will greatly help reduce capital flight and attract investment, especially because it will not only serve Airpeace planes, but also planes of other Nigerian and international airlines, including from West and Central Africa. Similarly, while I haven't seen the breakdown of the stated 712 billion naira cost of the rebuilding of Terminal 1 of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, as a big fan of infrastructural development, I support Keyamo's argument about the urgent need to rebuild the terminal, expand capacity, and upgrade our busiest airport to align with modern global standards. That said, as Keyamo also pointed out, the airport generates over 200 billion naira annually, so it should be able to recoup the funds within 3 years. Now, in another very concerning trend, Bola Tinubu has shamelessly continued his tribalistic urbanization of the federal government. In January, Kayode Opeifa was made a managing director of the Nigeria Railway Corporation. In March, Kunle Nafiu was made NYSC Director General, while Shamsuddin Ogunjimi was appointed the Accountant General of the Federation. In April, Bayo Ojulari was named NNPC Group CEO. In July, Olumode Adeyemi was announced as Controller General of the Federal Fire Service. In August, Idris Olurinimbe was named Board Chairman of the Nigeria Communications Commission. Now, all of that is on top of having Olayemi Cardoso as Central Bank of Nigeria Governor, Kayode Ogbetokun as Inspector General of the Police, Adewale Adeniyi as Controller General of Customs, Kemi Nandap as Controller General of the Immigration, Olani Pekun Olukoyede as EFCC Chairman, and Zacchaeus Adedeji as Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, recently renamed the Nigeria Revenue Service. Not only is this very unfair, given our cultural diversity, it is extremely reckless. In fact, it wouldn't be a surprise if the next INEC chairman will also be Yoruba. I must also condemn Tinubu for the grossly unconstitutional 6-month suspension of Governor Sim Fubara of Rivers State, simply because he refused to play ball to cooperate with his predecessor and Tinubu's FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, who clearly wants continued corrupt access to the Rivers people's money, and who must someday be held accountable for his very corrupt and nepotistic land-related actions in Abuja. In addition, the 100% hike in passport prices, which took effect a month ago, coupled with the 42% increase a year ago, just go to show how insensitive and irresponsible Tinubu's government is. Furthermore, why has Bola Tinubu still not appointed ambassadors more than 2 years after the September 2023 worldwide recall? It's never a good look for a country's embassy, or in our case, embassies, to operate without ambassadors, especially for so long. It absolutely affects trade and investment. Indeed, it was certainly the absence of an ambassador in Japan that resulted in Nigeria's booth at the TCAD exhibition in August being without representation on day 1 and for part of day 2. It's laughable that the federal government is blaming the delay on paucity of funds. Isn't this the same Tinubu who frequently flies abroad, especially to France and the UK, for God knows what? In the area of infrastructure, while some progress has been made on the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and the Sokoto-Badagry Highway projects, much more needs to be done. Sadly, inflation caused by Tinubu's policies has led to many road project cost revisions and funding issues. Also, it remains to be seen whether the newly set up Nigeria Solid Minerals Corporation, which began operations in July, will indeed attract mining investment. But it's not all been bad news for Nigeria. Despite the Dangote refinery's recent issues with Pengasan, the industry's senior staff union, over the recent firing of 800 workers. Since starting operations, the Dangote refinery has greatly transformed Nigeria's energy production. By Q2 of 2025, thanks to the Dangote refinery, Nigeria had become a net exporter of refined petroleum products, thus reducing our dependency on petroleum imports and boosting local refining. In fact, by Q1 of 2025, our petroleum import bill had dropped by 54% year on year. In terms of skills acquisition, the federal government has set up a 3 million technical talent program to equip 3 million Nigerians with technical skills by 2027. Also, in April, the federal government launched a national AI strategy to develop an AI ecosystem. This, coupled with ongoing initiatives to implement AI in healthcare, agriculture, and education, as well as the tripling of Nigeria's fiber optic capacity by installing 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables, will greatly expand digital connectivity in Nigeria and should be commended. Indeed, as of July 30, 2025, the 3 million technical talent program is reported to have trained 300,000 Nigerians. Many graduates of the program have been recruited by the federal government to digitize ministry and agency functions and build data sets that can feed qualitative Nigerian information into AI systems. In fact, when Time magazine named Bosun Tijani, Nigeria's Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, as one of the 100 most influential AI people in the world for 2025, it was an acknowledgement of how seriously Nigeria takes AI development. And that's a good thing. The federal government is also reportedly training 300 youths as tractor operators to boost mechanized farming. That too is good, but 300 is too small. A lot more needs to be done. My fellow Nigerians, at 65, our country has certainly come of age. Despite our present challenges, I am absolutely confident that Nigeria will change for the better in my lifetime. Hopefully, that will begin in 2027 with the election of Peter Obi as our next president. To the ADC party, don't repeat PDP's 2023 blunder. Do the right thing. Zone your ticket to the south for the sake of fairness. May God bless you all, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.